Hello, boys and girls. Today we are on lesson 12.2 on page 703, and we are practicing describing angles in plane shapes. Our essential question today is, how can you describe angles in plane shapes? And again, plane shapes are two-dimensional shapes like squares and rectangles, triangles, pentagons, things like that. Let's look at unlock the problem. And it says an angle is formed by two rays that share an endpoint. Plane shapes have angles formed by two line segments. So let me repeat that one so it doesn't get missed. Plane shapes have angles formed by two line segments. Okay? Rays can form an angle. Plane shapes can also have angles. And those two line segments in a plane shape share an endpoint. The shared endpoint is called the vertex, and the plural of vertex is vertices. So a lot of vocabulary there, and we'll go over those things over and over and over again, so hopefully we can remember them. All right, let's look at the problem here. It says Jason drew this shape on dot paper, and what it wants us to do is look at the angles in the shape that Jason drew, and how do we describe those angles? Well, we can describe angles three ways. We can look at a right angle, which is an angle that forms a square corner, just like on the corner of your paper or your book or your desk. Those are right angles. And we get this little symbol right here. Whenever we see that in a shape, we know it's a right angle. So whenever they provide that for us, we know that is a right angle. Sometimes you'll hear it called a 90-degree angle. But that's one way we absolutely know that that's a right angle. Another type of angle is right here. It's less than a right angle, and you can see right here it's a very sharp corner. So it's less than a right angle. And when it's less than a right angle, that's also called, has a formal name, that's called acute. That's an acute angle, which is less than 90 degrees. So if you took, for example, compared it to the edge of your desk, would go like this, right? Or the edge of your paper. And this angle is less than that. It's smaller than that angle that you would see on the edge of your desk or the corner of your desk or paper. So that's less than a right angle. We also have angles that are greater than a right angle. Oops, let me redo that. There we go. Greater than a right angle. And those angles also have a name. They are called obtuse angles. And again, if we compared that to the corner of your paper has an angle like this, has a right angle. So this angle is bigger or wider than the angle you would get on your paper. That's called obtuse, greater than a right angle. So if we look at Jason's shape, it says that two angles are blank angles. So we have two angles that are very similar. That's this one and this one. They're the same angle. Those are right angles. So two angles are right angles. And blank angle is blank a right angle. So we can look at, let's take a look at this guy right here. It is less than a right angle. We have one angle. One angle is less than a right angle. And we call that, if it's less than, we call that acute. And then we have one more angle, this guy right here, that is greater than a right angle. So, whoops, sorry about that. We have one angle is more than or greater than either one. I'm going to write more just because it's a shorter word, and I can squeeze in both words in that line. One angle is more than a right angle. So in his shape, 2 angles in red there are right angles. The angle in blue is less than a right angle, and the angle in green is obtuse or more than a right angle. All right, let's go to the next page here. And we're not going to do this activity, so I'm going to cross out the activity here. I'm going to go to Share and Show. On Share and Show, make sure you read the directions very carefully, and when you get ready to get started, go ahead and pause the video, do the Share and Show. It's 1 through 4 on this page, and 5, 6, and 7 on the next page. After you pause the video, after you pause the video, work through 1 through 7, finish them all up, resume the video so you can check your answers. If you get them all right, you can have a quick 5-second silent dance party. If you get any wrong, that's okay. Just fix them up and try to understand how or why you made your mistake. So go ahead and pause the video now and work on your 1 through 7 Share and Show problems. All right, boys and girls, I'm assuming you've done 1 through 7, and now you're using this video to check your Share and Show answers. So let's take a look here. Question 1, how many angles are in the triangle at the right? How many angles? So I'm just going to circle them. There's one here, and one here. Triangle has 3 sides. It also always has 3 angles. And then the next one says, use the corner of a sheet of paper to tell whether the right angle is a right angle, less than a right angle, or greater than a right angle. Number 2 is greater than a right angle. Number 3 is less than a right angle. And number 4 is a right angle. Remember now, I'm going to read right angle here and then give you the reminder. Remember, whenever we see this symbol right here, that means right angle. Okay? So that's 1 through 4. And if you made any mistakes, pause the video, fix them up, and then we'll move on to 5 through 7. And we have to read the directions. The directions say write how many of each type of angle the shape has. So if we look at number 5, right angle, again, anytime we see these guys, that means those are right angles, and we see 3 of them. So that means we have 3 right angles. Okay. Now we have just two other angles. There's an angle here and an angle here. So both of those angles are greater than a right angle, and we have total of 5 angles. We have 3 plus 2 here. That equals 5. I've counted up all my angles. That means we have 0 that are less than a right angle. Moving on to number 6, we look at this shape. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 angles, a total of 4 angles. So let's take a look and see what type of angles there are. We see no right angles. We see nothing that looks like, nothing that looks like this for number 6. So there are 0 right angles. Then I see 2 very sharp corners. I see one here and I see one here. Those are less than a right angle, so we have 2 of those. And then I see 2 kind of wide angles, or they have kind of like rounded corners almost if you look at them. Their corners are kind of rounded in a way. Those are going to be greater than a right angle. We have 2 of those. 2 greater than a right angle. And finally, number 7, look at this. We have 1 of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these, and there are 4 right angles there. And then that's all the angles. There are only 4 total, so that means we have 0 that are less than a right angle and 0 that are greater than a right angle. All right, boys and girls, as you're working on your assignments today, make sure you're reading the directions very carefully and closely. You can always go back and look at this first page that describes the type of angles, the right angle, the less than a right angle, or we also call it acute, really. And then greater than a right angle or those obtuse angles. So use this as a reference and a resource as you're working through your assignment today. That's all I have for you today, though, boys and girls. As always, do your best, persevere. This is Mr. P, and I'm out.